Americans are increasingly rejecting the two major political parties, as per new polling. Recent Gallup survey found 45% of U.S. adults identify as political independents in the first year of President Trump's second term in office, surpassing the 43% measured in 2014, 2023, and 2024.
The rise in the political independence reflects generational shifts. Younger generations of Americans are continuing to identify as independents at relatively high rates. About 56% of Gen Z adults now call themselves independents, as compared with 47% of millennials in 2012 and 40% of Gen X adults in 1992.
When comparing party identification and leanings, about 47% of Americans identified as Democrats or Democratic-leaning independents, whereas 42% identified as Republicans or Republican-leaning independents.
Meanwhile, about 35% of Americans in 2025 described their views as very conservative, or conservative as compared to 28%, describing it as very liberal, while 33% identified as moderate. Here is CNN's Harry Enton, Robby's favorite, explaining how changes in ideological identification are mainly apparent among Democrats.
Democrats who say they're liberal. In 1976, it was 30%. In 2001, actually went down a point. It was 29%. Look at where we are today. 59%, 3 in 5 Democrats say they are liberal. It might have used to be that the Democratic Party was almost more moderate conservative. You know, Bill Clinton, of course, DLC, the Democratic Leadership Council. No longer the case. That DLC is adios amigos. This Democratic Party is a liberal.
Former Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene chimed in, writing on X, both parties are to blame for nearly $40 trillion in debt, never-ending foreign wars, and foreign aid that does nothing for Americans, the ridiculous devaluation of our dollar, and the unfair overall affordability crisis for hardworking Americans. Yes, all things turning people into independents. I think that's a good thing. I'm an independent. I come on in, the water's fine. Now, a lot of people will identify as independent, but they come home to the Republican or the Democratic Party when the choice is actually,
right. A lot of people don't go like Ross Perot.
They come home. Also, that liberal identifier rise. It is true the Democratic Party has moved to the left, more to the left over time, actually, than the Republican Party has to the right, which is very interesting. But liberal as an liberal can mean a lot of different things. Like in the European context, liberal means my views. In the American context, I would like to see the options. I put the Democratic Party as, you can have like very moderate, like John Fetterman or something. Then you can have liberal, which is almost like you're most Democrats, and then you can have progressive, and then you can have left. That's how I would separate them. So I would separate liberal from progressive or left, but a lot of people say liberal and left synonymously. So we're operating off different definitions here.
Yeah, I guess that's like considering that there's people in the Republican Party that are still traditional conservatives and not like part of Trump's MAGA coalition that doesn't really have a defined. I mean, there are people that are older, I assume. We're talking about Gen Z. So if we're talking about Gen Z, I think that they're just tired of a lot of the stuff that we're repetitively talking about to the point of exhaustion, like Congress being ineffective. I mean, these polls come out every single time about people who don't like Congress, and it's most of the country, always irritated, and these back and forth games. I think when you see people get like a Trump fatigue, it's usually because, and a lot of people that are saying we don't think it's funny, from conservative radio hosts that are like, okay, well, DHS is using these videos, not really funny. Theo Von's like, take me out of this. Like, I think these are the younger audience and who they're watching. Joe Rogan, like, we like the conservative policies
DHS
here.
Stuff is getting to be a little white nationalisty.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people said, this seems like a good economic way forward, but we don't like all this other stuff. And I think that that's on the Republican side. On the Democratic side, I think they're like, okay, everything you guys talk about is a social issue, and we just want to talk about some actual policies. And so people are like, well, we'll see who down the ballot has the most ideas that represent us, and just decide that day. And hopefully we have more of that, and then it puts the pressure on these candidates.
I think it would be great if we had more actual choices. Now, our system is structured in such a way that we don't, but if we had a different electoral system, like other this is one of the only ways in which I think Europe's systems are better. You have multiple parties, and they're competing. Our system is such a winner-take-all system that favors there just being two parties, so we were forced to make this lesser of two evils choices at the ballot every time.
Now, President Trump is diverting more attention to the economy recently, and he's even proposing ideas that Democrats have been asking for. Stick around.